Tim Drain is the GM for the vacation rental company Natural Retreats, Big Sky. While the COVID-19 pandemic left a deep scar on reservations in March, we wanted to hear from Tim on how things are looking as of today, the start of phase 2 of Montana's reopening plan. Tim, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, you're absolutely welcome.
Yeah.
So Natural Retreats is a national organization. Tell us what you guys do and how you operate in Big Sky.
Certainly. So obviously, vacation rentals are the core of our business. In Big Sky, we have a couple other unique businesses that we don't have in the rest of our operations, which are a private Yellowstone tour company, Yellowstone Luxury Tours, and transportation, mainly airport transfers, which is shuttled to Big Sky. But essentially, we have the support structure and the backing of a national company with mainly the sales and marketing initiatives of a large national company with the boots on the ground operation here in Big Sky. So we've got all of our property managers, guest services team, or all the local staff here in Big Sky. So people that have been in the Big Sky community here for years, eating, sleeping, and breathing Big Sky. So it's, I think it really strikes a really good balance in the vacation rental world because, like I mentioned, we have those larger support structures that we need while having the local expertise as well. And that's really played very true over these last 10 weeks or so here. Having leadership teams or ops teams that are based out of our central offices that have been able to do a lot of the heavy lifting with, sourcing best practices, helping us source, equipment, cleaning products, et cetera, that have, I think really prepared us really well to be able to, continue to operate during this whole COVID-19 pandemic and all of the uncertainties and, potential health risks that are out there for everybody. So I feel really confident that, our team is very well prepared to have a successful summer.
Gotcha. Well, that's good to hear. It's obviously a very difficult time for a lot of people. You saw short-term rental numbers drop off as much as 97% in March. How low have those numbers gotten, and what was going through your mind, at the time?
Yeah, I mean, probably the first thing going through everybody's mind was, geez, what's going to happen to our business? Are we going to make it out of this? The travel industry as a whole has by far been the hardest hit sector of our economy, not just in Big Sky, but nationwide, worldwide. So there was, a lot of concern, a lot of uncertainties there. Luckily, Natural Retreats has taken a very progressive stance of not laying off any people, knowing that we need to have all of our people in place when things start to bounce back here and, have us positioned to be a leader in the vacation rental market here. So, a lot of those concerns I think are, they're still lingering there because nobody knows what's going to happen 4 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months down the road from us here, if there's going to be a resurgence of COVID or if it's going to be something that kind of goes by the wayside and we do start to operate normally again. But, like I mentioned, we've had those support systems in place and a lot of great resources internally to calm some of those concerns and some of those fears that, myself and other staff might have had, and be able to really, develop an action plan to be able to come out of this thing as successfully as anybody can.
Gotcha. For sure. Well, since Governor Bullock announced phase 2 beginning today, have you been seeing a change in reservation numbers over the past couple weeks?
We have, earlier today I was just kind of reviewing some numbers, and basically, when you start back in March, I think March 12th was when we had, revised our cancellation policy to allow guests that were affected by this to reschedule their travel. We saw on the 13th and 14th cancellations start to trickle through. The 15th, the resort announced that they were closing early and just saw a flood of cancellations come through. When I say cancellations, I mean, canceled but rescheduled. So the owners were still able to keep that money on the books for those future stays there. And then over the course of, really mid-March through mid-May, very little booking activity coming in, with the exception of rebookings for next winter mainly. There was a slow trickle of late summer bookings and some bookings for next winter as well. But since literally the day after the governor announced that the quarantine was lifting as of June 1st, we went from, just falling deeper and deeper and deeper off pace for the summer to actually having more than closed that gap now as of today. We're actually pacing slightly ahead of last year for July and August. June is still down quite a bit, but down about 50% over last year for June. If you got to glean some kind of silver lining from that, June's not a super busy month, as we all know here in Big Sky. It's the second half of June when folks start to, get out of school and be able to start traveling, that we see some activity come back in strong numbers again. I think we'll see June start to pick up a little bit too, because we are seeing quite a few last minute bookings coming through. But I can confidently say and happily say that we're looking pretty strong for the summer. So it's just now a matter of managing that and, managing our homes, managing our guests, and managing this whole situation, and managing our teams in a safe way also.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, kind of leads me into my, my next question. That's great from a revenue standpoint. It's great from a business standpoint and economic standpoint of this community. It also, it puts you and many other tourism dependent Big Sky businesses in a bit of a spot. How do you square tourist-based revenue that you need with health and safety?
The biggest aspect of it, I think, is, we spent this last 10 weeks completely rebuilding our housekeeping and cleaning and property management procedures. We're using, cleaning product that we didn't use in the past, that really nobody used in the past. We're using specialized equipment that, you don't typically use in a hotel or in a vacation rental. I mean, we're literally using the cleaning product and the equipment that restoration companies use when you have a viral outbreak on a cruise ship and they shut it down and come in and completely disinfect everything. We've got, we're building up a little bit of an inventory of electrostatic sprayers. We've got some other sprayers and what have you as well, so that we can use the product a lot more efficiently, and so that it does a better job. It actually sticks to the surfaces better and is able to disinfect quicker and more thoroughly. So changing those procedures in terms of, the amount of, we are literally disinfecting every surface that could possibly be a transmission point. Other things like, bedding in our properties, for example, throw pillows, down comforters, things that can't be laundered in between stays are all unfortunately disappearing for the time being. It's really more of an aesthetic thing than anything else. Right now we've got some product in that is working in the meantime that we're able to, still launder 100% and launder up to the proper CDC recommended temperatures to kill any potential virus. We are also looking at sourcing some additional bedding as well, because we do want to still maintain that luxury brand and have a high quality product that we're still presenting to our guests, but we first and foremost need to do it safely. We've also adjusted our check-in and check-out times to allow our cleaners to have more time in the property. One, there's additional bedding that they have to launder, but also just more time spent cleaning. Also gives the home a little bit of time to kind of cool off, so to speak, after guests depart, and housekeepers aren't tripping over guests as they're departing. Additionally, Natural Retreats has invested a substantial amount of money in PPE for all of our team members. We're also giving our vendors access to order through us, so that some of the smaller, maybe mom and pop companies that otherwise might not have access to good pricing on a lot of this stuff, which is, fortunately, there's a lot of price gouging going on with masks and gloves and a lot of this stuff right now. So able to leverage our discounts for our vendors as well, making sure that our staff and all of our partners, all of our vendors, that when they enter a home, they're well equipped to do so safely. Additionally, we're also changing the game a little bit. A lot of times, if a guest called with really any need, we're going to address it, and we're going to be up at their property pretty quickly. Unfortunately, one of the results of this situation right now is that, we're not going to be face-to-face with our guests nearly as much as we used to. If an emergency comes up and we need to relight a boiler, or, address a hot water issue or plumbing leak somewhere, yes, we're going to certainly go into the home and make sure that gets taken care of. We're going to try to do so while the guest is out of the home, so that we're not, interacting and crossing paths with them. But there are going to be scenarios that come up where we have to get on it right away. And in which case, we're going to make sure that any of our team members that are doing so are properly equipped to to be able to do so and be able to do so safely. Additionally, one of the things that is a brand standard for us is that we do a personalized meet and greet with all of our guests when they check in. Those are unfortunately going to go by the wayside temporarily, just to promote social distancing. We're not going to be, greeting the guests face to face at the home. So instead, what we've done is we've had our team work on putting together a virtual meet and greet for all of our homes. So they're going to walk the guests through the home, show them how everything from the access codes work to how the hot tub works, what you need to do with the chemicals, how AV systems in the home work, how gas fireplaces work, you name it, everything that we would point out during those meet and greets, we're going to proactively do in those videos. And, the guests will actually have those before they arrive. So they'll be able to kind of study up on the home a little bit too. So create that first impression before they've even arrived.
Sure. Well, that's quite a bit. You guys are definitely being thorough, lots of upgrades and precautionary measures. Has your overhead increased with these new approaches and guidelines?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's, none of this additional stuff that we're doing is coming, at not a cost. So, we're spending more money on cleaning supplies. We're spending more labor on cleaning as well. So all of those costs are going up. There are certain costs that are going to be passed along to the guest in the process. So housekeeping fees will, naturally be going up a little bit, but at the same time, we still need to be competitive in the marketplace. So we are going to be, adjusting rates where we need to still be competitive and be in line with the market. I think one thing that we've seen too is that a lot of guests are not balking at an increased housekeeping fee. They look at that and they say, you're going to charge me a little bit more, but you're going to have X, Y, and Z done before I arrive. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you, Tim, Natural Retreats, we mentioned, is a national group. How is the company doing at large?
Honestly, we're still doing well. The nice part about being somewhat of a diversified national brand is that we're operating in the West and the East. So we have, in the East, it's a lot of beach locations that are, they're more heavily dependent on their summer business. So they weren't as impacted by this. For us in the West, obviously the ski season is our big season here. Luckily the majority of the winter was a great winter for us. We had really just those last 2 weeks of March, and, April is relatively shoulder season time anyway, except for, we were going to have the benefit of Easter falling at a great time in April this year, which was essentially going to extend March for another week. So obviously that fell off and we didn't have that, but we've been able to be wise with our dollars and operate efficiently where we can, and kind of spread those resources where they're needed to, so that everyone's still able to operate and everybody's able to do so safely, responsibly, and really as efficiently as possible too. And I think one silver lining that might come out of this too is that we're obviously forced right now to operate with, as you mentioned, some additional overhead right now. So we've got to get creative as to where we can create some efficiencies as well. And I think a lot of companies are going to come out of this stronger and, in a sense, kind of leaner, because you're going to be you're forced to pressure yourself to operate a little bit more efficiently and find some creative ways to do so that are going to carry forward.
Yeah. Well, speaking of different ways to make revenue and be creative, you guys also operate Yellowstone luxury tours in Yellowstone National Park. How are reservations for that, and how might that aspect of business be affected by a partially open national park?
Luckily, I think our business model is working pretty well for what we have going on right now with the phased reopening of the park. The nature of that business is private, customized tours. We provide door-to-door transportation, we provide lunch. So, by having the guests be able to avoid going and meeting at a visitor center down in West Yellowstone, getting on a bus with multiple other families, stopping at Old Faithful for lunch, all these popular spots there, we've avoided a lot of that additional contact and kind of are inherently promoting social distancing by the nature of these tours. We're also able to really cater the itinerary for what the guests are looking to do. In a lot of cases, that's sort of the I guess, kind of the luxury and the operational component of those tours is that we can, specialize it to what the guest wants, but now we can also use that specialized catered tour to keep them away from those congested areas that they don't want to be in as well. Still show them, all the ins and outs, and just get creative with doing so. Like Old Faithful, for example, everyone's going to want to see Old Faithful, but maybe instead of, sitting on a rocking chair on the porch of the Old Faithful lodge there, we're, hiking around to the opposite side of everything and getting a different vantage point, being away from people doing so. We've got a great group of experienced guides that know the park in and out and can find all those creative ways to, to make the guests feel like they're on their own special private tour and not just with the masses, even if they are in some of the more popular spots of the park.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess, Tim, the last thing I really wanted to ask you was, kind of tell us about the messaging you're giving your guests from a safety standpoint.
Certainly. So, first and foremost, we are making sure that we're providing all of the current guidance to our guests. So whatever directives there are from the governor in our phased reopening, we're making sure that current information is provided to our guests so that they have the information that they need to make the responsible decisions. One of the things that our team does, we send out an area guide to all of our guests before arrival, which is essentially our top recommendations for dining and activity options in and around Big Sky. What we've done with that is we've catered that to kind of a COVID-friendly area guide, so to speak, where we're providing the recommendations that are promoting social distancing. Providing the up-to-date information on what capacity limits are in restaurants and retail spaces, for example. Focusing on a lot of the, we have a really strong network of private chefs and caterers that we work with, and providing a lot of those resources to the guests. Really just making sure that they're set up to be able to come here, still enjoy our community and want to come back, but not in a way that's jeopardizing their health or our community or our employees' health. Making sure that they're able to, make those responsible decisions, be a responsible visitor here to Big Sky, and not just flood into every restaurant and kind of take over and not be using their proper PPE as well. I mean, certainly we can't require that our guests are going to wear masks when they go out in our community. We can't require that they're going to keep 6-foot distancing from everybody, but we can give them the advice, we can give them the recommendations, we can give them the expectation that the community wants to have. We need visitors. We're a tourism economy and we need to have visitors, but we also want to make sure that we're keeping everybody in the community safe. And the more people that we get that message out to, for those that may not adhere to it, we've at least gotten the message out to that many more that are going to adhere to it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Tim, you guys are doing a great job over there. Really appreciate the work you're doing. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time.